Hey everybody, this is PJ Riley from Lancaster Archery. Got a product video for you today. Wanted to tell you about the all-new CBE Axis target sight. This is a target compound sight from the folks at CBE. Great sight with a lot of new features we're going to tell you about. So I wanted to start out with it mounted on the bow to give you a sense of what it looks like, and also to mention this is a target sight only, so the scope here, that is extra, does not come with the sight. It's the sight only. But anyway, the connection point. This is a carbon bar sight. The carbon bar is about 6 3/4 inches, but how it connects to the bow, this is a new feature for CBE. And you can see here, the bracket that holds the carbon bar, it completely encases the carbon bar. You can see it's got struts extending over. So this is actually a slot that you're going to send it through there. Why is that important? Sight manufacturers have noticed that if you just have it pinned to the top, these things can flex. So by having the struts go all the way around the sight, this cannot flex when it is in position. So just a measure of security by fully enclosing that carbon bar. Something else we wanted to tell you about there is, if you listen closely, I have this loosened, there are clicks. So there's a little spring-loaded detent in there to let you know when you're moving between each of the positions. That is the detent going into one of the depressions in the top of the bar, so you know you're in the right spot. Of course, making that even better is CBE has this little window there that shows you the number, and when your number is in the middle of it, it corresponds with that detent, and then you know your sight is in the right position. So that's a simple feature, but super important, because these carbon bars, if you're not putting that detent exactly into the depression, you can start to groove that on either side of the dent over time. And then your sight position can vary. If you're putting your sight on and taking it off, and you keep going back and you're not always getting it in the exact position, of course that's bad. So now coming down to the sight itself, we have a new connection system here. So you can see these two screws right here. That's pretty typical of how you're connecting your carbon bar and the sight together. However, what is new is that that's not going to be your first adjustment for the second axis. Typically, you're going to loosen those, and then you're going to pitch your sight this way to make sure you get that vertical bar perfectly vertical. Well, CBE separated that. These are now your screws. When you're leveling your sight, these are going to be what you're going to loosen for your first adjustment, second axis. Of course, what that does, it takes that vertical bar and you're going to be affecting it this way. We want it to be perfectly vertical. I don't know if you can see up here, but you see this screw, the hole that it goes in is slotted. So when you loosen it, you're going to be pitching it this way. So why would they separate the connection point from your axis adjustment? Well, it's because of this slot right here. If you're familiar with target sights, historically what we've seen is if you want to move the position of this bar on your sight, let's say you want it up high or you want it down low, typically you're probably going to have it up high so you can maximize that distance down low. But wherever you put it, there were always a series of holes on this vertical bar here, and you had to physically move the whole bar from one to the other. Well, you can see here, this is a big slot. And when I loosen these two screws here, then I can slide this whole bar up and down. I can put it wherever I want, from all the way up top to all the way down to the bottom. I'm not confined to the two holes that match the screws. Just loosen these up, and then I can slide it up and down, put it wherever I want it. So that's pretty cool. And then obviously they wanted to separate that from your axis adjustment so that you can maneuver that and then not have to go back and re-level your sight again. So cool feature there from CBE. Sticking with your axis adjustments, then you are going to come around and you will have your second axis adjustments here. Of course, then that affects your scope, same way, it's affecting your scope this way. And then underneath here, you're going to have these two screws. This is for your third axis adjustment. They've got etched lines here to show you how you're moving, so you can get your second axis and your third axis. You can see what lines they're at. Of course, third axis, that's the swinging door, so you're adjusting your scope this way. But it does have all the adjustments that we would expect, all the axis adjustments. All right, now moving on with some of the cool new features here. On both sides, you're going to see the indicators. I've got one on each side. These are micro-adjust indicators. So on this side, I have the set screw in. I've actually been using this sight for about the past 2 months, so I'm very familiar with it. But you can see that screw in the middle right there. I took it out on this side just so I didn't have to worry about it. When you loosen that screw, then watch this indicator right here. I turn that. This is a micro adjust indicator. You can see it moving down. Turn it the other way. I move it up. That's obviously corresponding to your sight scale. How many times have you fought with trying to get that indicator exactly on your 20-yard mark when you're sighting in, or wherever you start your sight in process? With this adjustment, it's super simple. You just turn that knob, get it to where you want it, and then tighten that screw down. Again, that's going to be that screw right there. Tighten that down and lock it in place. So that just made things so much simpler than that old slotted indicator that we're all familiar with. This thing is great, and you get one on each side. So if you run a second sight tape for whatever reason, 2 different arrows, or you use one of the numbered scales for your sighting, for your, getting your distance, your elevation set, you can do that. Put that tape on this side, have your standard one on the other side. Whatever you use 2 indicators for, you've got micro adjust on both sides. So that came in really handy. I really found that to be an excellent feature. Now, as for the tower adjustments here. So this is going to be your locking screw, and this is probably one of the most secure locking screws I've ever found. That when I hand tighten this thing does not move. If I really cranked on it, I could get it to move, but I'm talking about normal tension. When I tighten this thing down, this thing does not move with normal tension. Again, that's one of the most secure that I've come across. But when I loosen it, of course, then I can move it. So the clicks on the axis are super crisp, and more importantly, you feel the solid landing position that the sight ends up in when you make each click. I can feel, I can hear the clicks, and I can feel where that sight is landing when I make each click. And it is 20 clicks to get a full rotation here. What you're moving it at 2 1/1000ths of an inch is each click adjustment. So you're talking about super fine movements, in between my distances there. If you want to shoot this at 37 1/4 yards, you can get that to that exact distance. Again, I just like the feel of that click, that I can feel exactly where it's going. So if I need to count down a couple clicks, I know I can do that and feel my way through it. Get it in the position, as again, lock it down, it doesn't move anywhere. Same thing with your windage. This is going to be your lock right here, and then I turn that, move that back and forth, typical of your windage adjustments. Same thing, 2/1000ths of an inch. But sticking with the elevation here, we do have rapid travel. Loosen that up, press this down, and I can move this up and down the dial quickly. If I need to go from 20 to 60, I can do it with that rapid travel. Now, I have this set pretty stiff. You probably see me working a little bit to get it to do that. That's my setting. You can change that. Inside the channel here, there are 4 screws. You can see 2 of them now. The other 2 are hidden by the bar right here. I could lower it down and get access to them. I can adjust the tension of my rapid travel by loosening that screw. If I loosened it, obviously this would move more freely. Tighten it down and it makes it tighter. So you get to set how you want this to feel. I just happen to like it being a little bit more secure, so that way, you know, if I push that down, it doesn't drop all the way down quickly. I just like it with a little bit of tension on it. But that rapid travel, I mean, that is nice when you got to make those big adjustments on the line. You can make them fast, come back, lock it down. It's not going anywhere. Something else we have here, we have a quick disconnect for your scope rod. So right here on this screw, if I loosen this, I can pop the scope off. And now what you're going to notice here, you've got these, how it works is I've got these 2 silver posts here, and then on the sight, I have these 2 holes. So when I take that off, you know, obviously when I put this back together, those posts line up and you know your scope is going into exactly the same position as when you took it out. So it is a true quick disconnect that you know you can always get it back into the exact same spot, tighten that screw down, and then you're ready to go. You know, if you want to take your scope out for travel or whatever, you don't have to leave it connected to your sight. So in the pack, something CBE has been known for that I really like. I am not a fan of paper tapes. I like the metal sight scales. So CBE does give you a complete set of its 15 sight scales. There are 8 physical scales here, but they're both double-sided. They're all double-sided. 15, obviously that's an odd number. That's because your number 15, this is going to be your setup tape. This is what I'm going to put on, get my 30, 40, 50, 60 marks, and then I can take my tool and come around and figure out which one of the sight tapes is going to work for me. So you can use one of the paper sight tapes, of course, just put it over top of that. You can put that on there. Of course, you do have the blank one. This is a sight tape under here. It's just blank. You know, I could take that off again, put my paper sight tape on there if I wanted to, or use this one, whatever you want to do. You do have that option to use one of the programs and make your own paper sight tape if that's what you want to do. All right, so that is the CBE Axis, brand new target sight from the folks at CBE. As I mentioned, I've had this on my bow for about 2 months now. So I've put it through the paces, done everything that you want to do with the sight, and this thing has performed flawlessly for me. I've even kicked it over, dropped it in the mud, picked it back up, and nothing went out of whack. That's always good to know about that. But anyway, great sight from the folks at CBE. If you want to see this sight on our website, be sure to click the link in the description below. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like it, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to click that bell to get notifications whenever we put out new videos. And as always, if you have any questions, you can visit us at lancasterarchery.com.